Hey everyone, welcome back to Victoria's Heart. This is Nicole and I am here to do an update to my video about baby led weaning. I did a baby led weaning video about a year ago, I would say. Harper is past 18 months now and we started baby led weaning when she was 6 months old, and so I thought that I would go ahead and do a follow-up video of kind of the 3 devils of food that you want to stay away from whenever you're doing baby led weaning. From the beginning, when your child first starts being interested in solid foods, and then after like a month or two, when you're kind of okay, you're getting out of them just figuring out food and now you're able to offer them a few more different varieties of things. I kind of wanted to move on to that stage and kind of give you guys some insight to things that you might want to stay away from. And so if you're interested in seeing that type of a video, go ahead and stay tuned and we will get down to it. Alright, so the number one major devil that everybody will warn you about is honey. You definitely want to stay away from honey. And this is like pure honey. So the honey that you would buy in the jar that you would pour out on your cereal or put on your toast or in your tea, you know, something like that. I think there are honey crystals and I don't think you should use those either. I'm not for sure on that one. But I did have a little bit of a scare at one time where Harper or Sadie, I can't remember which one, was offered a honey graham cracker, and I kind of freaked out because I'm like, it has honey in the name, it does have honey on the ingredient list, but you know, it's in a product, so I don't know how processed it is or whatever. I called her doctor right away because I was freaked out thinking that I got my kid botulism, and it turns out that those types of products are so processed and you know, the honey is so broken down and there's such a little amount of it in the actual product that the doctor told me actually not to worry about it. So anyways, about the honey, you know, those types of things where they're in the product, so like cereals and like graham crackers, cereals and graham crackers and things like that, where it has like a little bit of honey in it but it's like a processed food. Even though you do want to stay away from like processed foods, if you're willing to give your child a little bit of that substance or that item or that food or whatever, it should not be a case where you need to like freak out and panic like I did. So okay, so that puts down the first number one devil, honey. You just want to stay away from that until they're over a year old. Number 2 is just massive amounts of salt. I didn't really think about what was in my food until I started thinking about what I was going to give my baby. And so I knew obviously that I wasn't going to be giving my daughter, you know, French fries and potato chips. But I didn't think about the amounts of sodium that are in things like bread, cheese, tomato sauce, things like that, even chicken and some other cured meats. You don't realize how much of a high salt content is in those types of things. And going right along with sodium is processed and canned frozen foods. You don't want to go along with a lot of those because a lot of those processed foods have sodium in them in order to preserve them. So you want to stay away from those. You want to give the kids fresh food as much as you can and things that are like separate ingredients. So instead of maybe giving them, you know, like a canned stew, maybe give them some steamed carrots, some peas, a little bit of the meat. Meat is good. You don't want to stay away from meat completely unless you're vegetarian, in which case, you know, there you go. But even those things where you're kind of like wondering, how am I going to make this into something that my baby can eat, because I really like using these soups, I really like using these sauces, but I want to make sure that my child doesn't get an overdose on these. What I would suggest is to just kind of go back in your recipe, see if there's a way that you can kind of deconstruct it a little bit, take those foods that you really want your child to have, cook those separately in a manner that they're still going to kind of recognize that it's kind of the same food, but just do it to where you're not seasoning it so much, you're not you know, mixing it with the soup if you're doing a casserole or something like that. You know, tater tots, for example, on their own are not too bad. I mean, it is a starch, but you know, when you're adding salt on it or when you're adding the cream of mushroom or the cheese and things like that, you're going to add to say a like a what do you call it, tater tot casserole, it kind of becomes a lot less healthy with all the cheese and the soup and everything like that. So we use ground turkey. We've kind of crumbled up some ground turkey. We've given her the corn. We've given her the tater tots, and we'll give her like a little side of fruit with that. And so it kind of helps to make it so she does feel like, you know, she still has the same meal as us, but it's a little bit more deconstructed, and it does take out a little bit of that sodium and a little bit of sugar that may also, you know, otherwise be in there. So things that are pre-made or processed or packaged, those things are a little bit more difficult because they're already created and all you do is heat them up. And so I know a lot of you YouTube moms are really conscious about health and things like that, so maybe you don't cook those things. I know in our family we sometimes do. So that was the case whenever we would step back and be like, okay, we need to get, you know, make Harper something separately from us because we're going to be eating a frozen pizza or we're going to be eating a frozen dinner tonight. So those are the times where it's kind of hard because I did not want to offer her that sodium. I wanted to make sure that we kept her away from that. But as far as like whenever you're cooking and you're making your recipes, all I would say is deconstruct them a little bit, take a look at the ingredients that you're using and offer them, you know, the vegetables and the meat, the fruits and things like that, and just stay away from all those added things that can really boost the salt and the sugar content of your dish. Okay, so that's the second devil to stay away from, is excessive salt. And the third thing, can you guys guess what it is? Excessive sugar. You don't want to overdose your kid on sugar. They're going to be bonkers. Their little digestive systems and their little bodies really need very little sugar. You don't need to overdose them on sugar. And I think that most parents know these things. And, you know, sometimes it can get a little bit hard to remember that so many things out there contain a lot of sugar. I had no idea how much sugar was in juice. Juice is just as bad as soda pop. Like literally, to me, you might as well give your kid a soda if you're gonna fill them up with juice. Like I never really understood how bad juice is. 100% juice. You know, you think whenever you're looking at 100% juice, oh yeah, that's good for my kid, there's not a lot of extra stuff in there. No, but there is a lot of sugar. So you want to make sure that you know, in my opinion, I would hold off on juice as long as possible. Not saying that that's for everybody, but just in my case personally, milk and yogurt actually has a lot of sugar in it. Then that brings me to also canned fruit. Canned or like cupped fruit a lot of times can be preserved in syrup, which packs a lot of sugar into, you know, already sugary food, you know, fruit. So not to say like stay away from fruit or anything, just make sure that you're kind of, you know, monitoring. That's all my suggestion is. So yeah, those are my tips for today for baby led weaning, things to avoid and stay away from. Tell me about your experiences with baby led weaning down below, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.